guys. Okay, I talk to aspiring law students all the time, or current law students, new lawyers, and I noticed that there are fears that a lot of you guys share. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the 5 biggest fears that law students have. Let's talk about it. Before I begin, I want you to comment below. Are you a new law student, a 0L, 1L, 2L, 3L? Because actually these fears apply to whatever level you're at. These are just law student fears, right? And I want you to comment below because I kind of want to see where our viewers are at. I know some of them are, this is a pre-law, law school and beyond playlist. And so we have people who are at different stages of their journey. So comment below which one you're at. Okay, so the first fear I'm going to talk about, these are not in order of like the most popular. This is just a list. So the first fear I'll talk about is cold calling and being called on in class. And usually people say, I'm an introvert, I'm very shy. What do I do in law school? I hear that you get called on and you may not know the answer. What do I do? This is a valid fear, right? Because people have different levels of personalities. You have those who are the type A personality and they're out front and center and don't mind being called on, and you have other ones who are just as smart, but they kind of want to be behind the scenes. And kind of, how do you balance that out when you're in law school when the professor says, okay, we're talking about a case of Wilkins versus state of Oregon. Tell me about the procedural history and tell me what's going on in the case. What do you do if the professor calls on you? So I'll give you kind of a clue. So that does happen. It's called cold calling, when the professor basically decides that they're going to look at the book of everybody who's assigned to the class and just start calling names at random. That is a real thing, right? And you want to be prepared so that, you know, when the professor calls on you, you can perhaps walk through what's going on in the case. And even if you don't know the answer, be able to at least talk about it at a level of intellect that the professor would expect, right? There are also things where it's like, okay, the professor may give you a heads up. This week, I'm going to be calling on these people. In that case, that's kind of a gift to you, right? Because they're letting you know, we're going to call on you. So you definitely want to be prepared. You don't want to say, oh, I'll catch him on the cases later. Hope he doesn't call on me or she doesn't call on me. They're letting you know that you are going to be called on. So that can give you an idea to kind of prepare yourself for that. And it's not so bad, right? Even if you get cold called and it's not so bad. Now, if you get cold called on and you haven't read your assigned reading, yeah, that could probably be bad because then it'll be a spotlight on the fact that you were deficient in your preparation for the class. But being called on is not as bad as it seems, right? Usually what happens is the professor is asking questions to kind of bring out what's going on in the case. Whatever the case is going to be talking about, they want to bring it out by asking you questions. What I would do, even if you're not the person being cold called, or even if you are the person being cold called, is to write down the question that you were asked. Because professors, it's only but so many ways they can test what a case is about, right? So if they're asking you certain questions about a case, more than likely, you're going to see those same questions on an exam. You might want to jot it down because this is like giving you an inside scoop of how the professor is thinking about the case. If they ask you about this, they're probably going to test on this later. So write it down. So it's almost like a gift to you to have a back and forth with the professor. And usually, as long as you seem that you are prepared, the professor is not going to ding you for perhaps giving the wrong answer. Law school is about a lot of times talking things out. Sometimes there is a black and white answer. A lot of times in the law, it's a depends, gray area. And as long as you're talking through it and letting the professor know, like, I've read the case, I think it's about this, and let's talk it out, and the professor wants to go in another direction, the professor probably will take you that direction with the line of questioning. So pay attention to what he or she is asking about. And as long as you're prepared, don't worry about it. If you get something wrong, it's not the end of the day. Guess what? Because you'll have the class again sometime that week. It'll be somebody else's turn to be on the hot spot, the hot seat, and it's not a problem. Everybody had their chance to kind of be on the hot seat. Don't be afraid to answer anything wrong, because it's all a learning experience. And if you kind of get in the I don't want to be wrong phase, that will eat you up. So for those introverts, for those extroverts, don't worry about being cold called or on call, because it's part of the learning experience, which is probably different from your traditional lecture style you had in undergrad. But law school is different from undergrad. So this is a welcome to law school kind of test. All right. Okay, the second fear people have is that everybody in law school is smarter than them, right? It's kind of like the imposter syndrome. almost related back to the cold calling where like you don't want to be wrong, and then everybody like, oh, she got that wrong or he got that wrong. Listen, at some point in law school, everybody's going to be wrong. This is something new that you're learning. Everybody's learning for the first time. Even people who have previous experience with the law will likely not know everything. If you knew everything, you would just breathe through it and you wouldn't need law school. So you're learning something from everybody. And appreciate the fact that you earned your spot at law school, right? Yes, there may be differing levels. People learn differently. But you earn your spot there, which means that you're entitled to learn and make mistakes just like the next person. And don't question yourself in that sense. Remind yourself, have affirmations. I'm smart. I deserve to be here. I'm still learning. It's okay to make mistakes. Kind of remind yourself that daily, because there will be people in the law school that they consider gunners. They always got their hand up. They always got the answer. But that doesn't mean they're smarter than you. Some people like to sit back and observe things. Some people like to be at the forefront. That doesn't mean that one is smarter than the other. You're just as smart in the sense that you earned your spot. Everybody learns differently. So somebody may catch on to the concept before you do. You just adjust your strategy. It may require you to study a little harder, study a little longer than they do. But you figure it out, because everybody's individualized and everybody needs something different. So once you figure out what works for you, don't apply that cookie cutter, this is what they did, so it should work for me, because that would be the wrong thing to do. So keep it in mind, you deserve to be there. Don't question your spot. Okay, so the third fear people have is failing exams. So some of the law school classes only have one exam at the end of the semester. So if you started in August or September, you have the exam in December, and that'll determine whether you pass the class. For some people, that builds up a lot of anxiety, right? Like, my whole future is dependent on this one exam at the end of the semester. How do I, like, what if I fail it? What will happen? Like, how do I manage that anxiety? What I would say to do, if you realize that that's a class, not all the law school classes have it that way, but if you have a class that only has a final exam as your determining factor, you need to not wait till December or the end of November to start studying, right? Start building up your outlines. Tracy did a video, if you check out our playlist, about how to do an outline. She was the master outliner, right? So check out her video if you need help outlining things, because that will help you build up your study list. So when you get there, you're kind of looking at your notes. By the time December rolls around, yes, you're going to have to look a little harder because you're getting close to the exam, but it's not like you have to learn everything you learned from August to December at the last week of November, right? So keep in mind, manage your anxiety. If you need to have some mental health relief, go to a therapist to talk about your anxiety about that. Find ways to de-stress yourself, to relieve yourself of things so that you won't have it build up. Because a lot of it is just a mind game, right? You think that you can't do it, and then your mind just starts taking over, and I can't do it. I heard people failing out. The reality is people do fail out. Whether that'll be you, it's up to you, right? And depending on how you prepare for it. So keep in mind that if it's one of those classes, don't wait till the last minute to start making notes. Don't wait till the last minute to start reading up on the cases. Take it a little bit at a time to build up to it, so that by the time you get to that, you kind of just doing a review. Okay, the fourth fear people have is law school is a lot of reading, isn't it? Yes, that is a valid fear. If you don't like reading, okay, law school may not be for you, because you're going to be doing a lot of reading, and it doesn't stop in law school. As a lawyer, part of your job is reading either cases, documents, evidence, things of that nature. So yes, if it's a fear that I can't keep up with all the reading, that's a valid fear. It's a lot of reading. Try to pace yourself would be my advice to you, but saying that it's not going to be a lot of reading, it would be a lie. It is a lot of reading. So keep that in mind when you're trying to set the expectations of what you think law school would be. It is a lot of reading. I can't say that enough. I used to like reading, and now, I mean, sometimes I try to make time for just like leisure reading, because you can kind of get caught up in the fact that you're doing a lot of the work-related reading. So do some leisure reading so that you don't think that just any reading is not fun, but it is a lot. So that's a valid fear. Before I get into the fifth one, and I'm going to try to give you a bonus one too, make sure you get the video a thumbs up. It pushes out to the YouTube algorithm so that more people can hear information about this. We often hear that what we tell you guys is helpful, so we want to help as many people as we can. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button so that you can see more videos from us in the future. Okay, the fifth fear people have is not getting a job after law school, right? So people like, I went to law school, I did what I was supposed to do, and then I don't have a job and law school is over. What now? Like, that's people's fear. And that's also a valid fear because you want to look at what the post-law school job acceptance rate is at your law school. What are people doing? I had that fear too, but you know what? The fear motivated me to make sure that that wasn't my reality when I graduated law school. So you can take some people have the fear and then kind of like sit on their hands or like go under the covers and just hope that it doesn't come true. And then other people take that fear and use it to motivate them. So what I did is make sure, well, leading up to my 3L year, I was doing certain steps to kind of set myself up for where I wanted to be after I graduated. But especially the third year law school, starting in the first semester, I was sending out applications for jobs, right? Although I didn't graduate the next year, some of the clerkship positions, judicial clerkships, they start in the third year, first semester, preparing for those things. I knew I wanted to have a judicial clerkship, so I was sending out applications early. I applied for internships with judges so that I could perhaps also ask for the job when the internship was over. Doing those things to set yourself up for what the job will be after law school is important. Some people will want to do summer associate positions. They have on-campus interviews. So if you do a summer at a law firm, you hope they give you an offer so that you'll know where you're working from. If that's not your reality, there are other places to work. I didn't take that route, but I also had a job guaranteed before I even graduated law school. It is a reality. And unfortunately, you don't want to have that as a negative motivation. But if that's what's going to help you make sure that you secure your spot, do what you have to do. It's a valid fear. Some people don't have jobs. And it doesn't mean that you won't get a job, because I know people who have gotten jobs after law school. After they graduated, they secured the job. That is stressful in the sense that you didn't know what you were going to have. And I knew before I graduated what I was going to have. But at the end of the day, it was still, they secured that job. So do what you can so that you can secure the job ahead of time. Set yourself up. Have good relationships with professors. You don't know who they know as far as their network, because their network becomes your network if you keep in touch with them. Make sure you apply for internships so that you can perhaps secure a full-time job after those internships is over. I'm sure you probably heard this saying, first year they scare you to death, second year they work you to death, and third year they bore you to death, right? And there's some truth to it, in the sense that your first year, you're kind of trying to figure things out. This is a whole new world. You don't know what's going on. You don't know if you're doing it right. You don't know if you're going to make it to the second year. That's some truth to it. Second year, you got a hang of what's going on, and they're giving you a lot of work to do. Your classes are not all the same. You're able to pick some of your classes that you want. You're putting in the work. I did a clinic my second year. I definitely did a lot of work in my clinic, helping out actual clients. Did 2 clinics. So keep it in mind. The third year, it could bore you to death because you're kind of waiting to graduate, but then some people kind of need that extra year to get their GPA up or find an internship or apply for a job. So you shouldn't be bored in the third year. You should actually be not resting on your laurels. You should actually be out there hustling to make sure you have that job after you finish law school. So as I mentioned, these are just 5 of the biggest concerns I've heard about from law students about law school in general. Comment below any other fears you may have about law school, and maybe we'll do another video to address it. All right, we'll see you in the next video.